It's ACC kickoff, folks. Well, not that kickoff, not the real kickoff, but the kickoff to the season unofficially in Charlotte at the media days called ACC kickoff. We got the wholesome one here to talk up Miami football as we typically do each and every week. This time on a Wednesday at 1 Eastern. Hope everybody caught up with the notifications. Join us live here for the next hour or so as we talk up Miami football in the ACC kickoff. Wholesome one, how are we doing today?
We're doing well. It's almost time to play ball. It's almost time for Bama. But before that, we have training camp, and we also had media days today. And what a great opportunity to have our head coach, Coach Manny Diaz, our best defensive player in Bubba Bolden, our team leader in De'Aaron King, and also another big team leader in Mike Harley, all represent the University of Miami today.
So I have yet to take in the festivities in Charlotte. I've got the SEC Media Days on here, and I've been just actually cutting up a ton of tape, editing a number of shows, so I haven't heard a whole lot of anything at this point. But I think they've got about 8 hours on the ACC network today, so I've got all that DVR'd, so I will dive into it at some point. So based on what you've heard so far, what stands out?
Well, number one, the focus of this team. It was great to see all the different coaches. I mean, I had ACC media day up and just listening to it while I also was getting some rest and getting some other things going on. So a lot of the coaches are still continuously talking about the name, image, and likeness and things of that nature. But it was great to see for the University of Miami the way that our players responded to it. And it was like, yeah, we're doing well. Yes, the University of Miami is in a great location. A lot of local businesses would love to invest in us and back and forth. But at the end of the day, we want to be here to handle business. Okay, and that's to play football. And yes, you'll be blessed to receive some financial compensation for your name. But at the end of the day, let's be honest, if you're a better player, then you'll probably get more endorsements, which means you'll get drafted higher in the NFL, which also means you'll probably get a lot more money. So it still works as early as it's now in the college ranks as far as players understanding that you got to go out there and produce. Okay, you have to be able, in order for them to know my name, I got to go out there and make plays. So being able to handle things on the football field as far as being on time to meetings, making sure that we have our leadership roles, making sure that we're creating great competition when it comes to almost every position on the team. You know, that's how you build a good program. That's what a lot of the questions for Coach Manny Diaz is because a lot of times everybody could get up there, Mark, and say, Coach speak. Yeah, we're working hard. We're flying around. We're giving good effort. Yeah, I'm creating competition. But for the most part, that was not true when it came to the University of Miami over the last maybe 2018 and 2019, where your starters were pretty good to solid, but then your backups were meh. You know, you start talking about your 2 and 3 star guys who are already on your 2 deep. Now you look at the 2021 roster, you got some 4-star backups that haven't seen reps yet, like Chance Williams. You have some really nice big size offensive linemen like Chris Washington and Michael McLaughlin, who were both 4-star recruits, both 6'7", 300 pounds plus. When they signed with us with 240 pounds and 260 pounds, now they put the last 16 months or so in that weight room, really building their bodies up to be able to help us in either mop-up duty or help us moving forward and moving on into the 22 season. So you're creating a great sense of competition across the board. And that's what it really boils down to, Mark. If you are a very good football player and the man behind you is also a very good football player, you are going to do every little thing you can to continue to stay ahead of that person and make sure you're number one and they're number 2. But they're going to continue to keep trying to nip at those heels to get ahead of you, whether it be just understanding the defense a little more, whether it be being able to answer that question, whether it be coming to the meeting room before you even show up 5 minutes earlier than that. All those little things, whether it be beating your own records in the weight room and saying, you know what, if he's benching 255 pounds, I'm benching 260. Just those little things, creating that great competition and battle on and off of the football field is what Coach Manny Diaz spoke a lot about today. And for me as a former player and working my way up in the coaching ranks here, that's just such an amazing thing to hear because it's not as common. People think it is. People think they get up there and say those things. That's all coach speak. but you really know what's happening in your program when certain terms are being used, man. And when real competition is being made, you see it in the team, and they go out there and they play on a different level. And it won't just be people feeling entitled to a position because I started last year and you're not really that good. So I could be a 4-year starter at middle linebacker because Miami ain't recruit a better linebacker than me my entire time here, like a Shaq Quarterman. Okay, that type of stuff is just unacceptable at the University of Miami. Shaq Quarterman had walk-ons behind him. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, you cannot build a great program, especially at a key position like middle linebacker at a spot like that. It just doesn't make any sense. And I think Coach Diaz and his staff, he's not only recycled, he's gotten rid of some people who were yes men. And for lack of a better term, brown nosing. He's gotten rid of them because it's not going to help us go anywhere, Mark. All right, we can't keep coming up here and talking about the U, and it's not 1986. We have to be able to pull things in a different direction, and that's modernizing and upgrading our views on the schemes offensively and defensively. And it's really doing a whole 180 on this roster. And unfortunately, that may mean some people seeking shelter elsewhere, or Coach Diaz really finding ways to make those players who I spoke about were 3 stars, who I spoke about were 2 stars, and finding ways to make them better. That's a great tale of a great coach also, is being able to say, all right, you know what? You may not be a starting player. You may not be great, but we're going to find a way to put you on this team and find something that you can do to help us win football games. And whether that's helping us on scout team on a high level, whether that's running down on gunner, whether that's being a long snapper, we're going to find a way to make you a better football player and add you to our program. So I'm excited to see what Coach Diaz and these players are going to do moving forward. But today is all about talk, but I heard some really key terms that made me very excited today.
Mr. HD is letting us know that there's going to be so many commits coming here pretty soon that I am going to be swamped, busy. Mr. HD, 24 hours in a day, I don't think I can get anymore. Once I take the 3 to 5 hours of sleep, I think, I was chopping up Nebraska video up until about 3 minutes before the show hit. One of the big reasons why my man, and you're not going to like this, Wholesome One, not going to like this, but our folks from Knoll Game Day came to our equipment and technical aid just now, let me know that I had my mic on the wrong settings and that my mic wasn't activated. So, bam, saved me on that one. Appreciate that. All right. Week 0 in 38 days. Of course, Miami kicks off a week later.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got, folks? Anything coming up here? Don't see any questions, any comments necessarily from anybody in the live squad. All right.
Hey, again, what's up? Richard Hill, what's up? What's up?
Here we go, Wholesome One. Here's my question for you. I asked this on a few different shows this week. If you've got one stat, one fact, one piece of information, something that I could tell you today, right now, about the 21 team that would give you the best indication of how they're going to do, how much success there's going to be this season, what would that piece of information be?
I've actually heard this one a couple of times. I think Cam Underwood had a great response about third down efficiency, both offensively and defensively. That was a great answer. Mark, I'm going to take a different route. People may not like it, but oh well. What round was De'Aaron King drafted in?
Really? Wow, that's
Yep.
an interesting one.
Yep.
That is
What
really
round was De'Aaron King drafted in?
That is outside the box thinking right there. Because I'm thinking along the same lines that Cam was thinking, and with other teams, I did the same thing. Just kind of focused on, well, how would you look at the numbers? How would you look at, what basically just happened during the season to let you know, okay, that's going to next April to say, okay, this is going to let us know what the NFL scouts now seeing the last 12, 13, 14 games of D'Eriq King's career, God willing, that this is what he showed us.
Now,
I like that.
Let me explain my view on this. Okay. Now, jumping ahead to the NFL is something that, especially when you're dealing with a 5'10" quarterback, when you're dealing with someone who he doesn't have the prototypical size, he doesn't have the prototypical arm, all those type of things, it can really skew the conversation. But here's why I say what round. If you're giving me a D'Eriq King that made it into the third round, because that's what I think he is. I think he's a third, fourth round guy. I don't really know if he's a first or second round pick. I think if he does, then Miami had an unbelievable season. But that also speaks to my question to you. Because if you were able to say, yeah, D'Eriq King was the 32nd overall pick, that meant Miami was, whoa. That means whatever he did, his leadership, his influx, but all of those things, those are intangibles. That meant what he did on the football field was out of this world. Now, if you turn around and say D'Eriq King was a 6th rounder, somebody took a flyer on him in the 7th, early 5th round, okay. Miami was probably a 9-10 win team, lost a couple games. But that's where my question is, because he would have had to play on a completely different level to push himself into an early day 2 pick, or excuse me, middle of the road day 2 pick or early day 3 guy. And we're just calling it like it is. Yes, there's people in here who's saying D'Eriq King for Heisman. I'm with you. I'm not one of those people that I'm a sizeist to a certain extent. Okay, I'm not the tallest person in the world, but I also understand at this level, size matters. Okay, and D'Eriq King showed us a lot of things last year that made us very excited about what he could do in this spread RPO system for Coach Rhett Lashlee. But it also speaks to Coach Rhett Lashlee. Okay, Coach Rhett Lashlee had a seasoned vet QB and didn't even let him make audibles at the line of scrimmage. Okay, he has a seasoned vet QB who would come to the line of scrimmage versus Clemson, where they're coming out in an odd front. They stand up that defensive end, and then the linebacker stands outside of him, and we still call read option right, where they have an answer on both sides, and you see him looking like, all right, hike, and let's see what happens. Because Coach Rhett Lashlee, also, they didn't really build that good of they had a relationship, of course, but it wasn't really a great bond just yet. Still getting to know each other. Okay. But then you fast forward a little bit from that, and D'Eriq King calls the whole second half of the spring game. Both sides of both teams, the orange, the Canes and the Ivers, he called for both of them. He called the offense. So if he can call your offense, then I'm hoping that you have that good of a relationship with him to where if he comes to the LOS and sees a blitz, or if he knows his play is not going to work based on what's going on the defensive side of the ball, he should be able to make adjustments at that line of scrimmage. But all of those things would have had to happen. Okay, he goes out there, and that means he had a nice game versus Bama. If we're talking about, let's talk about him being a middle of the road or late 3rd rounder. Okay, so that means he had a pretty solid Bama game. All right, he went through the rest of the season and played at a pretty high level. And maybe in between there, he had, like last year, NC State, where he had over 110 yards rushing. He had 300 yards through the air and had 4 total touchdowns for what he brings to the table. Now, if you talk about a Heisman season, Mark, I mean, I'm not going to go there, but people are saying, they want him to be a Heisman in the Heisman conversation. Even that would be huge. Is D'Eriq King sitting at the Heisman voting? Is he sitting at the Dave O'Brien at the end of the year for the trophy? So again, that's why I posed the question that I did. Okay, because I'm not saying he's a Heisman. I'm not saying he's winning the O'Brien. I'm not saying that he's going to be a guaranteed third-round pick. But if I would have asked you that question and you can give me that, looking back, well, he had a good season, but he was an undrafted free agent. What does that really say? So, hey, some people are going to agree with that. Some people are going to say I'm stupid. That's okay. God bless you anyhow. But all I'm saying is I think that question for me personally, and that just speaks to what the team was, because he is in direct, besides the center, he has the ball in his hands almost 100% of the time. And the QB, not only is he a leader for us on and off the football field, but he's kind of the nucleus of the team. And if he goes out there and has a really nice season and has great individual success, that turns into great team success because he's the one distributing that football across the whole team. So, yeah. Again, my question would be, what round was D'Eriq King drafted in?
I like that thought process. Interesting. 904 Hurricane has a question here that's related in some ways, very different in other ways. And I'm actually going to take, if I may, Wholesome One, my perspective on it, which is going to be a little bit different, more from a league standpoint. I see it like this, that until proven otherwise, Clemson's the best team in the league by, I don't want to say some enormous gap, but by a substantial gap, decided there's really no debate. Okay, the two other best teams in the league, in my viewpoint, are North Carolina and Miami. I think they're on another plane. They're by themselves. Again, this could be disproven in the next 3 to 4 months. That's why we're going to see the football season play out. But as it stands right now, in my mind, North Carolina and Miami are by themselves. And then probably, Duke and Syracuse are at the bottom by themselves, something like that. Then you've got this entire conference that, to me, is a muddled mess. The Pitts, the Wake Forests, the Louisvilles, the Virginias, the Virginia Techs, on and on. All those teams can be within a couple games of each other. They're all like talented teams. Now, some of them are going to stay healthier, may have an easier schedule, catch a few breaks, develop better, and break out and be 8-4. And some of them are going to drop off, not catch some breaks, maybe have to run into Clemson in the other division, that sort of thing, and maybe go 5-7. But there's not much differentiation between the rest of those teams. But to 904 Hurricanes question, if you would apply this to other teams, and considering D'Eriq King is one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the nation, something in that range, versus the other guys who are inexperienced, very talented players, but inexperienced. If you applied that to the other teams that I'm talking about in this league, that middle pack of like 9 or 10 teams, the difference in quarterback play could be enormous for them because they're so clumped together, where Miami and North Carolina losing the 2 quarterbacks they have is huge. Of course, we're talking about Howell might be the best or second best. D'Eriq King's right in the yeah, in the country,
Yeah,
in the country, in the country.
Yeah, he's up.
So it would be a huge loss. But if Miami loses D'Eriq King and their backup quarterback, I'm assuming it's going to be Tyler Van Dyke.
Me too.
Plays well, plays up to his capabilities. Yes, there's going to be a drop off, but they should still be better than, maybe it means a game, maybe it means 2 games, maybe they only go 7-5, 8-4, but they're still better over the course of that roster than everybody else in the league besides Clemson and North Carolina. So I don't know if that answered the question, but I think that Miami's hopefully getting toward a place where they can lose a key player and still be better than almost everybody on their schedule.
I mean, I tell you what, I hope you're right. I think there is a big drastic drop off, in my unhumble opinion. So if D'Eriq King were to start the season, to answer this question, I think Miami is a 9 or 10 win team. Unfortunately, 9-3 feels a lot more realistic, only because we have to see it, man. We have to go out there and see all of this hoopla and off-season hype and all that stuff really manifest itself. I think 9-3 is an absolute floor. 8-4 would just be ungodly disappointing. But hey, we've had that happen too, Mark. So that's like I don't want to keep dwelling in there, but I think that's where the conversation starts. If it's TVD, I think if TVD starts, his peak would be 9-3, 8-4. And then I would say the same thing, just one step under for Jake Garcia. I think Jake Garcia's peak would be kind of that 9-3, and I think 8-4 also. I don't necessarily see a 7-5 from this Miami team because of so much around it. So I guess it's not really a drastic difference. It's just 1 or 2 wins, especially in your big games. You trot out a second team, you trot out a TVD versus Alabama and having to go to Tallahassee, and even though they suck, but it would just be tough. And then also having him go into Chapel Hill, a place where the last time we rolled in there with a freshman, we took him to the brink, but in the 4th and 17 and Trajan Bandy, that just didn't go together well. So we would see with that. And then Jake Garcia, I think, he has a lot of energy. One of the brothers in here says, Guillermo is talking about his swag. Yeah, it's cool. I like his fiery and his excitement. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, I think we would also have another thing I would say, Mark, is in that question, he talked about starting the entire season. So that would mean that we would have time to prepare them for the entire season as opposed to somebody getting hurt mid-game or, practice or something like that. So I definitely think that we would be an 8-4 team with all 3 of them. At worst, 8-4, and as high a 10-2 squad with a De'Aaron King. So that's mine. No, I haven't seen any film on Justin Medlock to answer that question.
Justin Medlock's out of Marvell, Texas. Kind of tough to reach out. 48th rated linebacker in the country. And he's in the 22 class. All right.
I wonder why you picked that one. Out of all of the 48th ranked linebacker, that's pretty okay. Is he like a size dude? Is he like 6'3" or something?
6'1", 210.
Okay, I mean,
barely in the top 500 in the country.
Yeah, we can't be bringing in guys like that. Barely in the top 500. Yeah.
So we got I'm not a recruiting analyst by any stretch. I just look at these numbers all the time just because I have conversations like this all the time and cut videos. So I just have a range for where the numbers are. So what the Wholesome One is basically saying is true. I would say if you went to the top 5 programs in the country and you went to the very bottom of their, say, 22, 23 players that they signed that year, you might see a couple guys in this range. Maybe. Andre Williams.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, comment section. I get it. Like I'm just saying, if you're gonna talk about, that's why I said, what about him made him bring him up? That's why I asked that question. Okay, you're the 48th ranked, you're barely in the top 500. Okay, you're talking about what's the young man that wore number 20 here in the 2019 season?
2019, number 20.
From Miami Edison. Oh man. And everyone was clowning him. Oh, I can't stand when this happens to me. Long locks. He gave up a touchdown versus Tallahassee. Robert Knowles. There we go. Thank you all. Yeah, when you start talking about guys like that, But I mean, y'all say he was hurt. He's a sleeper. I completely understand. All I'm saying is, based on those rankings, I've yet to even evaluate his film. So I'm not attacking that young man. I'm just saying I was wondering why y'all would bring him up. But,
he's got a lot of big offers. He's got a Miami offer, and he's got a lot of other big offers.
Okay.
Despite his ranking, maybe he. I guess the other thing I'm learning is that they are cycling through a lot of these players more so this year because of the pandemic than other players and have to catch up on their rankings.
Okay.
So maybe he gets upgraded because he's got LSU, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Oregon on his offer list.
Okay, cool beans.
But yeah. All right. Andre Williams, offensive line.
Okay. I think the reason why he's asking this is because on Monday we had a really nice breakdown, Mark. We went position by position, but instead of going position by position breakdown, I did something a little different. I did position battles. So I went with the number 1 versus the number 2, and then the players behind them. So we went across the board, every single from strong side defensive end, weak side, 3 technique, 2-eye, inside linebacker, weak side, striker, boundary, field corner, free and strong safety, the X, the 2 outside wide receivers, the 2 inside slot wide receivers, left tackle all the way to right, running back. I mean, we went down the line. I didn't expect that to take as long as it did, but what my question to everyone was, let's say, for example, left tackle. Okay. The battle right now is Zion Nelson, John Campbell, and behind them, Michael McLaughlin as a third, who's a freshman, correct? So the conversation to them, the question was, who do you think is going to win this battle and why? So people were able to give their opinions in the comment section and then back it up as to, well, because of this and because of that. And my whole reason for Zion Nelson, in my opinion, John Campbell is better than Zion Nelson. That's just my opinion. Okay. Now, Zion Nelson has all this offseason hype. He has the ESPN, I mean, that one person that put him in the top 5 for the NFL draft and all type. When this dude didn't even start half the season last year, I mean, it was wild trying to defend that. And then people say, well, who are you? You're just a YouTuber. That guy works for ESPN. And I'm like, okay, you're right.
Yeah, that I could take off on that. That sometimes means something. A lot of times it doesn't mean anything.
But hey, a title is a title, man. And at the end of the day, I think that the University of Miami, I think that our coaches are going to feed into that. I don't think that our coaches are going to bench this player that has all this offseason hype, has all the NFL draft and evaluators talking all that. They're going to start Zion Nelson, in my opinion, no matter how good John Campbell is. I think they're very close, but for me, I value the ability to run block just as well as I do evaluate the ability to pass protect. Zion is a very good pass protector. His run blocking leaves a bit of desirable, but he's one of the best pass protectors on the whole team. Okay, and yes, that's what you would want out of a left tackle. But in an RPO system, I need you to be able to run block too. Okay, and that's why I would go with John Campbell. But that's where the battle and the conversation was. So I'm guessing that's probably why he was asking about the offensive line. So my projected offensive line for this upcoming season is going to be Zion Nelson at left tackle. At left guard, I have Jalen Rivers, the 6'5", 325-pound super freshman from last year. Okay, he's former Big Ten. He's a top 10 offensive tackle in recruiting. Now moved on the inside. I mean, big body. He's very balanced on both ends. He's very good at run blocking, very good at pass blocking, and he's right in between. At center, I don't really see as much being a battle. I think Corey Gaynor has that on lock. But Ja'Kai Clark is someone who's been a swing guard center for us the last 2 years. And unfortunately, he had an injury, so I don't think he will be ready till about week 5, week 6. So I don't think there'll be anybody to really push Corey Gaynor at center. At right guard, I think that position is on lock with Navon Donaldson, 6'6", reportedly down from 350 down to 335. Reportedly, if that's true, man, that's what we've been waiting on is to see him get back into shape. And then at right tackle, there's a real battle. Okay, there's a real battle between DJ Scaife, a fifth-year guy, and Jared Williams, a 7-year guy. 7 years, going to the 7th season of college football. And
that's really a nice NFL career.
Yeah,
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. I mean, apply for your doctoral degree at this point, brother. But Jared Williams he has the size. He's pretty adequate in pass protection, but he's not a people mover by any means, Mark. He's a guy that makes sure his guy doesn't make the play. That's just what he does. You won't have many stats, but he ain't gonna have any stats as far as pancaking you. He's just gonna make sure I'm in the way and you're not gonna get there kind of player. Because Scaife is a really like slam down, run, pancake guy, but his pass protecting is a little iffy at 6'2.5", so 305 pounds is real light in the behind. So there's a big battle going on at that right tackle position, and it depends on what the coaches want. So that's what that conversation is. And the latter half of that the question that he put up was about the Ed Reed conversation. So at the end of the show, I posed this question to people. I was saying, I believe that Coach Diaz is not going to stay defensive coordinator for very long. I think he's going to pull it together this year, grooming somebody behind him or battling back, not really battling, but building a great relationship behind closed doors with somebody that he can trust the defense to for the 2022 season. Or maybe 2023, 2 years down the line. Here's the question I posed to them. Number one, who do you want to be the defensive coordinator? And number two, who's the new assistant? So I posed it like this. Do you want Bob Shoop to step in and be a defensive coordinator and leave everything as is? Or do you all agree with promoting T-Rob to defensive coordinator, moving Ed Reed from chief of staff over to safeties coach, and then promoting Todd Stroud from a QC, quality control, over to chief of staff, which was his original position back in 2019 before Coach Jess Simpson left for the Atlanta Falcons, and then we moved him over to be the defensive line coach because of his history coaching defensive line back at NC State and Tallahassee. Which one of those two? A lot of people were Shoop. I want Shoop. And I said, okay, that's fine. And that's why I posed the question. But let me ask you about the second thing that I said. What defensive back could Miami not be in conversation for when he sit downs and speaks with T-Rob and Ed Reed, especially at safety? You're being recruited by one of the best players and one of the best football minds of all time, and Coach Ed Reed, and a proven developer, whether a 3-star through 5-star, proven developer, proven recruiter, and Coach T-Rob. I'm just saying, I thought that would be a great. Now, it could be fantasy, and it could also be, hey, that's not a bad idea. Okay, but at the end of the day, I don't know if that'll even happen. Coach Ed Reed has made it very known that he wants to be a coach. Okay, he's tweeting stuff like, I'm a head coach, I'm a DC, NFL, college, somebody come get me. And I would hate for a mind like that and potential like that to have to seek somewhere else for him to get an opportunity when he's an employee at our institution and works for our athletic program right now. And he already proven, shout out to Coach Coop, one of the best YouTubers on YouTube, man. I love that guy. Okay. He had Light Skin Warrior Bubba Bolden on for an interview because now, with the whole name, image, and likeness, you can do stuff like that now. And so he had him on, right? And this guy says, Bubba Bolden says out of his own mouth, yeah, we would get the defensive call, and I'm looking at my safeties coach. And then a couple yards from him, I look at Ed Reed before the play, and he's giving me hand signals and stuff of where I need to be on this play. Okay. And also, he talks about the fact that Ed Reed has his own notes for everyone in the secondary, and they meet with Ed Reed during the week for preparation. And talking about the previous game and talking about the next game, they have film sessions with Ed Reed. Okay, so if all of those things are true, he's already doing a lot of the groundwork as a position coach already. Why not bring him on? So that's just my pitch. I don't know how far I'm gonna promote it as much as I can because I would love to see it happen. But I think it's not a bad deal at all.
That's our guy, DeAndre, Clemson fan, BGPO Football Funk, chiming in with his take that NC State is the second team in the ACC to Clemson.
Hey,
I don't happen to believe that. They'll start playing ball here in about 6 weeks, so we will know soon.
Well within his right to have that opinion. I mean,
absolutely.
You also think that NC State has a way of proving that also. They get the two other good teams in the battle for number 2, okay, in the regular season. You always play North Carolina, and you have Miami week 6 or week 7. So you have an opportunity, and they come down to the crib. They come down to Miami Gardens to have a chance to beat it. So why not?
Absolutely. That's a good call on the schedule. That's right. And NC State also has a decent affair with Mississippi State in the non-conference.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Which will give us a pretty good feel for where they stand.
And they play Clemson every year, so they definitely have a chance to prove all of those accolades. I think they are returning a lot, too, especially because Miami caught a break and had to play like their second or third string QB. And they took us to the brink. So, hey, you never know, man.
Charles Mai, good to see you here on the Miami show here. That we want to remind everyone that we're here with the Wholesome One typically on Thursdays, but that's one of the reasons why you slam that bell with the notifications once you subscribe to know when we're going live, because I send out notifications. I send them out on the main channel to let them know, okay, on the Miami channel, I'm with the Wholesome One, 1 o'clock. I send them out on the Miami channel, send them out on Twitter. We're all over the place. And then once we make the scheduled time, that notification goes out. So there should be plenty of notifications for everyone to catch up and keep up with us. So again, Charles Mai, appreciate the contribution there. Wholesome One, do you believe the Miami players will fix the run defense problem from the North Carolina game?
I don't necessarily believe that is a player problem. This is a scheme problem. What I mean by a scheme problem, do I have my – give me 1 second.
Sure.
Give me 1 second.
We're going to get schooled here. Everybody lock in. Get ready. The coach, the Wholesome One, is going to let us know what's going on. While we wait for that, no, here he is.
Mark.
Oh, the whiteboard.
The whiteboard, my favorite, one of my best friends.
Let me give you some room here.
All right, let's break her down. Okay. I hope my marker doesn't go out on me. Okay. And I hope you all can see this a little better. I'll make it smaller so I can fit everybody in, all 11. Okay. Let's put our back to the weak side. So go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, and give me 11. Tight to this side. Okay. Corner free. Strong. Striker. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. So what that would mean is that my mic would have to come over here and address this. Striker here, weak here, 4, 6. All right, here we go. So if y'all can see this, I know it's kind of, good God, can y'all even see me?
It's yeah, I can see it pretty well.
You can see it kind of. I wonder if I got another mark in here because I know it's pretty tough to see. Okay, is that coming out a little better? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
So let me explain what's happening and what the big issue is out of the 4-2-5. Okay. Whoa, somebody just called me by my first name. That's terrifying. Mitchell, how did you know that? That's scary. So the biggest issue that Miami was really having in that game is people were getting to our perimeter really easily, okay? I will tell you exactly how. So this wide receiver would come in and cut our weak side linebacker, right? We would have a pull, climb up here to the middle linebacker, slam down, come around, wham, and stretch right here, right? Okay. Here's the big issue. It was very simple schematics. At that defensive end right here, we had Jalen Phillips. Now, what Jalen Phillips loves to do is always pinch inside, okay? So what that offensive tackle would always do is invite him inside. to make that play. He would show him, kick, and give the inside lane. And so Jalen Phillips would slam right inside, okay? So what that does is it automatically puts him out of that play. Our weak side linebacker would be cut by that slot wide receiver over here. Okay, so he's on the ground. So now we have a pulling guard in open space and a running back in open space, and no one in the vicinity except for safeties who weren't tackling well at the end of the season and corners who can't get off blocks, trying to tackle Power 5 running backs, okay? So it's a schematic attack. It wasn't necessarily saying that they had such great players than Miami. It was a schematic defeat of the Miami Hurricanes, okay? Now, I'll even show you the other play where they had counter off of that exact same look, okay? I want to be respectful to my roommate. She's probably still sleeping. All right. So now let's go. Let's leave the exact same thing, and we're going to pull the opposite way, but we're going to stay in that 10 personnel, and we're going to come and cut back the opposite way, okay? Because what's happening is coaches are going to make their adjustments, right? So you have to be able to have an adjustment off of the adjustment, correct? All right. So the same thing you're going to do is give that play side defensive end the exact same look. I want to invite you inside, right? This is where you saw Quincy Roche or Jalen Phillips make a play or two in that game where they both had 2.5 TFLs and they both had a sack and a half because they kept inviting them inside. And if you are moving fast enough, then you can make the play. Okay, so when they went with the counter look off that exact same thing, in the third quarter, Jalen Phillips was able to come inside and make that play and catch Carter in the backfield. Michael Carter, the running back, catch him in the backfield for a TFL, right? But then, instead of inviting inside, all they did was scoop block. Okay, what I mean by scoop block is that right tackle is not going to take a drop step and turn in front of that defensive end to make him go through your body. Okay, that's what a drop step is at the right tackle position. Everyone else slides down. Okay, so what happens is we cut that backside technique. So that right guard is going to cut the backside technique. The center is going to climb to the middle linebacker. You got one-on-one, big on with the 3 technique and the play side defensive end. One-on-one, okay? We got to earn your scholarship is what this one's for. Okay. Cut. Okay. So now let's go to the other side and break it down. So what would happen is we're running that counter play, okay? We're going to cut that backside defensive tackle, all right? We're cutting this guy. We're going to climb as the center over to our middle linebacker who's proven that they can't get off blocks. Talking about B.J. Jennings, can't get off blocks. One-on-one play between the defensive tackle and the guard. One-on-one play between this defensive end, okay? But what would he do? Open those hips and invite the defensive end to do what? Come inside. So now this counter is we take that jab step this way, we hand the ball off, and now he comes this way. This slot wide receiver, all he does is come up and cut our striker, and now you got Amari Carter one-on-one with Michael Carter in open space. That's what they were doing. It was all schematics. That's all they did. It's simple numbers. It's knowing your opponent, knowing your opponent's players and what they like to do, and being able to draw up simple plays to exploit that. That's all it was, Mark.
Good stuff there from the Wholesome One, setting it up for us. How many games did Miami play after the North Carolina game?
I thought that was our season finale.
That was the last game of the season? Was it?
Well, before the regular season, before we went to go play Old State.
Before the bowl game.
Yep.
Was it the last game?
Yep.
Okay. Because my question was going to be, I didn't think it was, but anyway, because my question was going to be, okay, then everybody sees what North Carolina did. And I kind of had the same question as they did regarding, how much of that was scheme versus how much of that was talent, because they had two of the best backs in the country. Their offensive line obviously did the job. And did anybody else try to?
Because the next game for December 19th would have been Georgia Tech, and they ended up getting canceled for COVID. Georgia Tech, I don't even think they played like 4 or 5. They played like maybe 4 or 5 games. They had COVID real bad.
Yeah.
At Georgia Tech. So, yeah, that was the last one.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So we wouldn't have necessarily seen, except for Oklahoma State was the only opponent that would have had tape to try to duplicate that. Okay. All right. We got Joshua. We appreciate the super chat, Joshua. Thank you so much for that. Basically asking, with the Manny Diaz style of defense, whether that's going to free up Bubba Bolden to become, whether you want to say All-American or just to be the best player he can be, if this is a good fit for him.
I agree, because the safety position in the Coach Manny Diaz aggressive defense, you're going to see Bubba Bolden play a whole bunch of hole, okay? What that means is Coach Diaz sends a crap ton of blitzes. Okay, he's blitzing Diaz. The hole player is the person that fills the spot that was just left open. Okay, so for example, if I'm shooting my middle linebacker down the field and I'm shooting my will linebacker, the hole player is the safety that moves from his original position to the middle of the field to take over where those two just came from. Okay, and that is done because it identifies, when a QB identifies the blitz, then he always has his hot routes. Sometimes it could be curls, slants, seams, things of that nature. So safeties are really used to be hole players because they can attack the ball instantly as soon as they see that ball flying out of the hand of the QB on a quick hot route for a seam and things like that. You can get some nice interceptions, some pick sixes, because, you're coming downhill with all that momentum. You ain't going to just catch that and stop. You're going to catch that in stride, and it's going to the other touchdown. Okay, so that's where Coach Diaz comes a lot. You think about your Jaquan Johnsons. He was a lot of the middle of the field hole player for Miami under the 4-3 attack defense that Coach Manny Diaz used to do. And it's similar in the 4-2-5 attack that we had in 2018. Jaquan and Red Wine were hole players. So, this is who they were referring to when they said the first name. Woo, scaring me, man.
Got the wholesome one here, talking Miami football here each and every week. So lock it in with a subscription to the channel. That's way when we're going live. And while you're at it, anybody listening to me right now, whether that's here in the live squad or that's the hashtag rewatch squad, if you have not subscribed to the Wholesome Ones channel, go up in the search bar, Wholesome One Holloway. Wholesome One will get you there. HOLSUM and the number 1. HOLSUM and the number 1. Head on over there, subscribe, get the breakdown. As you saw, just a slice, just a glimpse of what you get over there.
With the bad marker. Wait till I get my blue marker back.
Yeah, he
sorry about that.
He uses the bad marker for the voice of college football. He uses the good stuff on his own channel.
Man, I was just trying to hurry. I didn't want to waste no time. I picked up whatever I could find to get to breaking that thing down for you. So hopefully you all were able to see that. I do apologize if you weren't.
Mr. Baker, thank you once again for the super chat. He says Ed Reed already has said that he has no interest in being a position coach. He will only be a coordinator.
I would be very weary of saying, I don't know. If you could send me him saying that, I would really appreciate it. I know that he's talked about he's a head coach or defensive coordinator. I've seen him tweet that stuff out, but to say that he doesn't want to do it at all, that's the best way to become a DC, is to start off as a position coach and then branch from there. I think that's just a simple way of getting her done. And I also think that at his alma mater, he would definitely be willing to be just a safeties coach, especially because he gets to recruit safeties and coach safeties, something he's already basically doing. Yeah, man, I think that would be a great one. But hey,
Got our man Dwayne Baker again chiming in with another super chat. Appreciate that so much, Dwayne. Thank you for joining us. Haven't seen your name that much, I think, just very recently. So it's always great to see new people finding us, and we appreciate the contribution.
Mark, you got to give them the old school welcome.
Oh man, see, ever since I got this, man, it's tougher, but we'll do our best here, Dwayne. Welcome to the Voice of College Football, Dwayne. I know who you're rooting for. Would love to know how long you've been watching the channel.
Boom.
That's it right there.
That's always I miss seeing that. That was always really cool. Used to load it up.
Yes.
Welcome to the Voice of College Football.
I got the idea, I guess, for that because I used to do the 10 o'clock sports in Mississippi at a CBS station down there. Then we would tape after the sportscast. We would tape a 5-minute sportscast for the morning show. So they would replay it on the morning show, and it was called The First Look at Sports. And just kind of the way I talk, I guess, just the way it comes out of my mouth, my typical cadence, I would say, "Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your first look at sports." So that kind of first just kind of jumped out, and it kind of kept going a little bit more and more. And like people in the studio started kind of snickering and laughing, and they kind of thought it. So I started to really embellish this, and I'd be like, "Good morning, everyone. This is Mark Rogers with your first look at sports." Then it got crazy. And then the news director and the general manager are telling me to shut up and don't do it anymore. And we're getting letters, and I said, "You're always going to get complaints, but a ton of people love it. People hate it. It causes interest, right? Isn't any publicity good publicity?"
Facts. I mean, Mark, I tell you this much. I remember when I told my older brother, that I was going to do the channel, and he was like, "What? Say that's stupid. Like, why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's something I'm going to do. If I fall on my face, then I fall on my face. But heck, even if I get to 100 views, that's 100 people who care about what I have to say." And I was like, "Well, I think I have a great voice for it. I think I have a great passion for it. So I'm going to continue to work on it." And now I got podcasts. I'm doing stuff with other people's shows. I'm blessed to have this at least once a week. People send me links, and I hop all type of stuff. So he apologizes to me about that a lot. But like I said, for anyone else out there, there's something you really want to do, even if the people closest to you don't yet see your dream, step out on it. Step out on faith, and you got it.
That's a great message. No question about that. It's good to get wisely counsel from those people closest to you to understand their perspective and maybe learn from them. But if you're completely convicted in your heart and have thought it through and know what you want to do, don't let anybody get in your way or talk you out of it. I would show up at the Ole Miss and Mississippi State football games and at high school football games on Friday night. Even people that didn't know my name would be yelling from the stands, "Your first look at sports." Like I'd walk in on the field at Mississippi State or Ole Miss, and people would be yelling that all over the place. It was funny. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Wesley the Saint is the 20th rated linebacker in the country out of Miami Central. So our guy Dwayne is asking, are we seeing much out of this recruit, Saint? I know Cam's talked about him. You've talked to him about him a little bit in relation to Avery Huff when he came out of high school.
Very similar out of St. Thomas Aquinas. That 6'3", long, wiry speed, big safety, weak side linebacker kind of player. But Wesley the Saint is a true LB. Like that's a linebacker. It ain't somebody that he's a bigger safety, so we're gonna move him to linebacker and see what happens. No. WB is an LB. Okay, he's coming downhill and he's making great plays. Mark, I don't really say this much. To be honest with you, he is a must get for Miami. He is. We've been losing marquee linebacker battles since Coach Manny Diaz walked through the door. Okay. A lot of people, let's be honest, Shaq Quarterman was committed to Miami before. He was committed to the Mark Diafono 3-4. Zach McLeod was committed to the Mark Diafono 3-4. Mike Pinckney was like a 3-star. Let's see what happens. Kind of like what he brings to the table. Also committed to the Mark Diafono 3-4. They were going to come here to Shaq Quarterman was going to be the middle linebacker and a 3-4. The weak side linebacker, the weak side inside linebacker next to him was going to be Michael Pinckney. And then the 3-4 strong side outside linebacker was going to be Zach McLeod. And we were going to have an edge rusher opposite on the weak side. And that was going to be our LB core. Okay, that's what they were brought to do, was be a 34 LB core. But since then, we've signed guys like Wayman Steed and B.J. Jennings, who are above average, pretty good guys, pretty good players or whatever. But Wesley the Saint is a guy who, he's being recruited by Bama. He's being recruited by Florida. He's been recruited by Ohio State. It's not like, he has their offer and it's committable. We'll see what happens. No. They're really recruiting him. Okay. You need young men like that to be on your team, build up in the weight room to be grown-ass men, and you need them to be seniors on your football field, leading the fort, carrying the torch. Those are the type of players you need. Wesley the Saint is a must-get for Miami. There's a big difference for me in the film evaluation between him and Avery Huff, because one was a gadget player that did a lot of things. The other one is a true modern-day linebacker that Miami needs right now.
I got to say that I'm amazed. I'm amazed at what this guy brings to the table. I'm looking at this guy right here, the wholesome one, because here's just a random question out of nowhere comparing a recruit at that level, Wesley the Saint, with Avery Huff, who's been in the program for a couple of years, 2019 recruit. We could have picked, we're talking about there's got to be, when you can pick out two players that have some level of connection just because they play defense and have somewhat similar skill sets. I know from listening to you for a few years now and you coming on a regular basis, the database up here is pretty remarkable because the two players that could have been selected could be all over the place. It just happened to be those two, and you were able to, bam, make the skill set assessment of one compared to the skill assessment of the other one, talk about strengths and weaknesses and how they fit. And I got to tell you, wholesome one, that's just one of the reasons why you're here. That's truly, I don't know if people really recognize what they just heard, and it's on a regular basis, but that was a great example of breaking down player evaluations. And that's what I love to hear, because I sit here and I listen, I learn, and then I can try to store as much of that away to my knowledge base to try to be as informed on what I produce later in the game.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And we've got, I thought this was a tremendous comment here from Dwayne. So this is amazing to see, because we just know with different people's schedules and just the way different people like to take in their content, that there are a lot of people that are just true supporters. They love the content, they watch, but we just don't get to hear from them. And that seems to be the case here with Dwayne, who says, I've been watching for 2 years. He just can't get to the live streams. It was great that we were able to connect today and got to hear from Dwayne. Says great content, smash the like button, hashtag live squad, but mostly hashtag rewatch squad. So Dwayne, it's great to see you and hear from you, man.
Gosh, I tell you what, Mark, it's so good to see that. It's other people who use it and the hashtag live squad and the hashtag rewatch squad, man. And I love the fact that even the spelling is what translated to, you capitalize the L, you capitalize the S, you capitalize the R, you capitalize the S, and the rewatch and in the live squad, man. And it's just, I don't know, man. I like taking credit for things, but I also don't like being boastful about it. But when you see people who you've never met, you see people who've heard it over years and they know how to do it correctly. It's a blessing to see it used so much and all across the board, man. We really like that.
And again, it's a blessing for me because I certainly appreciate the people that we hear from that are here on a regular basis, that we hear from all the time, that contribute. Know that you are valued and cherished and appreciated. But it's also nice to hear, okay, you see somebody, you think they're new. I come across this all the time.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, great to see you. Did you just start watching? No, I've been watching for 4 years. I just got a chance to comment, or I don't comment. I just typically just kick back and watch or listen, or I don't make the live stream. So I don't comment to the channel. I just love the content and I see every day, but we finally get to recognize, okay, this is another person who watches. So the statistic that Joshua is going to, and Joshua, we thank you so much for the super chat contribution as well. Thank you for that. Most telling stat for him on how the season's going to go is the defense in the top 10 to 15 in the nation. So my only thought about that is if you look at just the traditional defensive rankings, any college football season, NFL
Total
season,
rushing, passing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yardage per game, points per game, yardage per game. Does that tell you something? Obviously, it tells you something. It means something. You're going to see the better defenses typically near the top of the list, and you're going to see the average defenses in the middle and the worst defenses in the country at the bottom. You know, if you're giving up 500 yards passing per game, yeah, you're horrible. But I just think a lot goes into that. Number one, if you're a dominant football team and you're winning by 3 touchdowns routinely, Alabama, in the fourth quarter, teams are throwing the ball like every play of the second half. And they may dink it here and dunk it there and gain 8 and 12 and 18 and score a touchdown that's meaning. And they may rack up 320, 340 yards passing in the game, but you picked them off 3 times and they only had 35 yards passing at halftime when it was 28-3. And it's filler yardage. It's meaningless. So yeah, the yardage stats are credible. They mean something, but to me, that's not a complete picture.
You know, Mark, I would even flip that on its head and just go with the 180 of that. If we have a top 10 or 15 ranked offense, I'm just saying. A top 10, a top 15 ranked offense at Miami. Mark, man, listen. I don't even know. I can't even remember the last time we've been ranked that high offensively. And in all likelihood, it's probably one of the worst things if we honestly think about it. Think about all the offensive talent that comes out of that region of this country and goes off to play ball and do big things at other places. In their hometown school, or even think about the ones who came here, your Duke Johnsons and your Philip Dorsetts, your David Njoku's and your Stacey Coley's, and we've been like 35th and 51st and 60th and 90th in offense, and it's just like, wow, you know. But hey, if you're cheap, Mac Brown said it very simple today in his presser. He looked over to his athletic director and he said, we had to have buy-in from the administration. I don't want coaches leaving North Carolina because we weren't paying them. We're not making them happy. If they leave because they want to be closer to home, if they leave for a higher job somewhere else, that's different. But we don't want them losing. We don't want to lose our coaches because we're not paying them. It's just that simple.
The top total defenses in the country last season. And Joshua, don't get me wrong. That's a great indicator. It is. But number 1 was Army. Number 2 was Marshall. Number 3 was San Diego State. Number 4 was West Virginia. The 5th team, they only played 7 games, but this is the first real credible team I'm going to go with, Wisconsin at 5. Iowa's around 9. Texas
At least we
A&M
don't
at
have
10.
our coaches talking about we're the 19th ranked defense. 13th ranked defense in the country back in 2019 when we're losing to Duke, La Tech, and FIU. Woo! Man, I'm so glad we getting guys like that out of here, man. My God.
When they say
Mark, it was so bad, they had to turn the mentions and the comments off from the post because we were going crazy on them for uploading something like that. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
Well, the only thing I was going to say there is there's an old saying that says stats are for losers, and that's exactly what that is meant by. Now, if you're winning a conference championship or you're going to the playoff, and then in addition to that, you say, yeah, we had the third ranked offense in the country. Okay, well, you're not relying on that as being like, hey, we got the third. No, it's just you're just talking about it and saying some of the reasons why we're there. But when you're saying, oh, yeah, we went 6-7 and lost a bowl game to a group of 5 team, but we've got the 13th best. That's when stats are for losers. You know?
It's when you want to say, hey, man, you pat them on the back and you go, I wouldn't have said that. You know, just shut up. Let it go. Okay. All right, I'll ask you this question, Mark. I don't know how much time you got left, but you're an observer from far away. I need one on offense and one on defense. I won't even go 15 years. I'll just go the last 10 years. So from 2011 through 2010 through 2020, because we haven't played the 2021 season yet. Give me the best offensive player in the last decade for Miami and the best defensive player for Miami. Go ahead.
The best offensive player. There was immediately one name came to mind. I'm not going to name him yet because then there's another player that comes to mind that maybe I didn't appreciate as much as I could because your counterpart, your colleague, Mr. Cam Underwood, you know who he loves is some 82, some Amon Richards, that's his guy. He just thinks he would have been, and we'll never know. Unfortunately, we'll never know.
I don't know about him being a top 15 pick. That's just me. But
and I guess he just didn't overwhelm me to the point that I was really taking it in. And then obviously he was gone. So I would like to go back and watch. But the guy that I just thought, man, this guy's a complete player at his position that I loved watching. And based on his role in the NFL, I still do, is Duke Johnson.
Yeah. And the sad part is he played for some really piss-poor Miami teams, and he also played on some nice, talented ones towards the end of his career. And who knows what he could have been if he came back in 2015. But yet again, that was back when the program was all about like, you come in, you give us 3 years, you get out. And now Coach Diaz is like, nah, I want those senior-led. I want those older squad teams because let's be honest, Mark, the older players help teach and build the culture to hand off to everyone else. Well, if it was your time to hand off and you always leave for money, then now we only have young people teaching young people as opposed to older young people teaching the young people. So I agree. I think it is a good conversation. But Duke Johnson, what he meant locally for us, I mean, whether he was in the Liberty City Warriors team growing up, whether when he was at Miami Norland, which is literally 7 blocks away from where we play our home games. Okay. Duke Johnson meant a lot locally, especially when his mom went public about wanting him to go to Alabama. He said, Mom, I'm going to Miami. When there's reports of Will Muschamp, head coach at Florida, coming down and requesting him out of class, he comes out of class, comes and he says, thank you, coach, for coming here, but I do not want to waste your time. Regardless of record, regardless of sanctions, I'm going to the University of Miami. Shook his hand, listened to whatever spiel he had to say, and walked away. Those are the type of people you got to have wear orange and green. And it was such a blessing that he came here, and he gave his all for Miami, and he was so explosive and such a good player. You know, for the first time, Mark, we were making ESPN top 10, and we were like a 7-5 kind of squad, but we had that type of dynamic explosion, dynamite, and Duke Johnson rocking number 8 for the Kings. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. Duke Johnson was big time.
What happened on, because I know we've talked about this play before, but I don't remember what the play call was. I remember the situation. I remember sitting like 5 feet away from here watching the Independence Bowl against South Carolina, and there was a 4th down play around midfield with about 4 minutes left, something like that. You know where I'm going.
You're talking defense now, aren't you?
So Miami couldn't stop him on a 4th down on defense?
No, Miami did stop him on a 4th down on defense.
Okay.
Are you talking about when South Carolina tried to do a QB sneak and Denzel Perryman jumped over the line of scrimmage and German suplexed the QB to stop him and got the 4th down stop? Are you talking about that play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but then Miami couldn't score.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah.
Nope. With Philip Dorsett and Duke Johnson and Eric Flowers, 2 first-rounders and one early 3rd-rounder. With Brad Kaya at QB, Miami couldn't score the ball on South Carolina. Yep. Down by 4, too. So you needed a touchdown.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you needed a field goal. You needed a touchdown.
Was it? Was it 24-21? That was the score I had in my head.
I thought it was 24-20.
Maybe.
Could be, no. Could be 24-21.
On the defensive side, so 2 guys immediately, it was another thing where 2 guys immediately came to mind. One more of a guy that was recruited, signed, developed, just had a stellar career, 4 years, mainstay. The other guy, a flash.
Mm-hmm.
The flash just occurred. The flash was, and this is the unfortunate thing about college football, is you get a transfer, and because of injuries at the former stop, and because he's so good, the NFL wants him, and because of the season we just went through, which wasn't a true full season with non-conference games and everything. It was 11 games where it could have been more like 13.
Mm-hmm.
From a talent, just sheer, again, it was a flash, because 10 years from now, you could say it'll be great to see 5 years from now, Jalen Phillips' name called every NFL Sunday, and he's a Miami Hurricane, but unfortunately played in kind of a ho-hum season with a marginal bowl game, and that was his Miami career. But if you're just talking about sheer talent and me being wowed about what he could bring on a particular play and some of the things that he could do that I have rarely seen anybody be able to do at that position, that's the guy from a talent standpoint.
Okay.
The first guy I thought of, well, no, he was the first guy I thought of. The other guy I thought of was, again, it's more of a career award, is Shaq Quarterman, and him bringing the wood and being that guy week after week after week after week.
Okay. That's interesting. Shaq over Denzel Perryman? Okay.
Well, if we're going, you said 2010.
Yep, Denzel Perryman was 2011 through 2014.
Okay, I should have went through. Yeah, there's no, unless you need to correct me on this one, there's not a comparison in terms of talent between those 2 guys. Denzel Perryman.
That's a great question. One's like 5'11", the other one's like a legit 6'1". Okay. One was like highly sought after. The other one was a 3-star. So you had a different level of climb. One continued to ascend and ascend and ascend and ascend. The other one plateaued. And then latter half of the season started to play on the latter half of the senior season started to play on a different level. So that's a great one. But for me, I'm gonna go with DP52. You know, he's one of my favorite players. Played against him in high school and then saw his whole career through the University of Miami. So it's a little different for me when it comes to Denzel versus Shaq Quarterman. But statistically, I think it's actually a pretty close conversation between both prospects. But hey, So which one are you picking?
Well, if you're just talking about the better player, Jalen Phillips is the better player.
Phillips. So
but
Duke Johnson and Jalen Phillips. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked you is because you hear all these player profiles from when we talk about them as recruits to if they sign with us to how they're playing throughout the season, year in and year out. I mean, you probably know more about John Ford than a lot of even Miami fans know about John Ford. You know, as far as from him signing way back and talking about so excited about that size and all the way through to now we're like, can you please make a play? You know, it's kind of been a growth. So I would agree with you offensively in Duke Johnson. But, man, it's a big conversation for me defensively between three players. Denzel Perryman, okay, Jaquan Johnson. That, man, those two players came in as freshmen and contributed. Started having some starting reps and started some games as sophomores. Were full-time starters as juniors. Full-time starters, ACC Media Day kickoff appearance, preseason All-Americans, and postseason all-conference guys and draft picks. You know, they had a full career, which you really like to see at Miami or between those two guys. And the third one would be a tie between, you know, the flash in the pan season guys like a Gerald Wallace or a Jaquan Johnson or a Greg Rousseau, guys like that. They had a flash in the pan type of season. But, you know, I would have to go with Denzel Perryman. I would have to go with Duke Johnson on offense and Denzel Perryman on defense, man. They had such impact on the program. And I wish they could have joined a better program, you know, like, heck, if they were freshmen in 2016 under Mark Richt and they got to experience 2017 or something like that, how much of a blessing that would be for them. But they laid the foundation. And like I said, the most important prospect, most important recruit of this last decade without any conversation is Duke Johnson. When the best player in the metropolitan area joins a very down program and does his own recruiting, gives up the number he wore since he was 6 years old for the Liberty City Warriors, was number 3. And he told Tracy Howard, bruh man is what we call him at the crib, you come to Miami, I'll give you number 3. Because they both wore 3 growing up. Tracy played at Miramar. Tracy played at Carroll City, then transferred to Miramar High School. Miramar Optimist is what I meant by this. The Miramar Wolverines is the Optimist team across the way. And then he grew up in Dade and then played his high school ball a little bit at Carroll City, but then transferred from Carroll City over to Miramar Patriots playing for Coach Cogdale. Okay, but then, you know, he wore number 3 over in Broward. So you had the number 1 player in Broward wore number 3, the number 1 player in Dade wore number 3, and they both came to Miami. And Duke Johnson said, man, if you come to Miami, I will give you number 3. Gifted it to him. Eric Flowers came to Miami because of Duke Johnson. And people want to play with that kind of leader. And I just wish he would have been given a better career here, a better win-loss record at Miami.
Devin Ray has been begging and pleading and over, read my comment, read my comments. So I went back to his question and just, Devin, understand that if you join us a little bit late, sometimes those questions are answered. And unless the Wholesome One has anything to add, he reviewed the entire offensive line 45 minutes ago. So wait for the video to post. It's right there for you.
I'll say this much, man. I think the interior offensive line will have a jump due to the big influx of size. We go from, and this is no offense to Ja'Kai Clark, but we go from a 6'1", 6'2", early 300 pounds, late 290 pounds at left guard, and a 6'2", 6'3", late 305, early 310s in DJ Scaife, to 6'5", 325 pounds and Jalen Rivers, and 6'6", 335 pounds in Devon Dawson. You add that with 6'4", 318 pound Corey Gaynor, yeah, we're going to start moving people. And that's what we have to have on the interior. Yes, for that very first game of the season, but for the entire season. We need to be able to pick grown men up against their will and drive them in the opposite direction. And I'm sorry, you can't do that with 308-pound guards. It's just not happening.
This is the last thing I've got today, non-football related. Everybody check that out. So that was sent to me by a viewer. I did not request it, didn't order it, didn't know it was coming. This particular viewer sketched that, and I checked out about 10 or 12 of their sketches, and they're pretty remarkable. And you can check out their work at tristatesketch.com, tristatesketch.com. Look it up. And if you buy one, you get one free. Just tell them Mark sent you. Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers, whatever you want to say. Mark sent you, tristatesketch.com. You send them a photo. You pick out a various surfaces that you want. You've got a selection there, and it's pretty impressive.
That was great. I'm not artistic at all. I can't color.
My son is.
I'm not. Line at all, man. I can dance. I could do that, but as far as drawing on stuff, not me.
The wholesome one on the dance floor.
Oh, Mark, you haven't seen it?
I haven't.
Oh man,
is it on your channel?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have it on my channel, but it's on Twitter, and people done caught me. I'm surprised nobody in the chat ain't say nothing just yet. But a couple years ago, I did a Ray Lewis reenactment. He was my favorite player, so I did a reenactment of his the squirrel dance he does when he runs out the smoke and does the slide, and then he does the thing. I did that, and people went ballistic, and it just went crazy on Twitter. And then they also caught me dancing at one of the summer camp finales a couple years ago. Somebody had that on video, so I was like, "Oh, I hope that doesn't get in the wrong hands." But
that is great.
Yeah, I can cut her up.
All right, everyone. If you haven't done it already, head on over to the Wholesome Ones channel right here on YouTube, Wholesome One Holloway. Subscribe there, subscribe here, lock it in. We appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much, everyone who contributed financially and everybody who contributed in the live chat with the likes, the shares, everything that you guys do. We always appreciate it. Wholesome One, you deliver again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for accommodating my schedule, Mark, and we'll keep in contact. Thank you all so much for being here. It's been a great opportunity. Hour and a half. We've never gone this long, so I don't know what Mark has up next, but make sure you're there, whatever it is, except for Tallahassee. Don't go there. Have a great rest of y'all day, and as always, God bless and go Canes.